All right. Welcome, everyone. We are holding by the Book of Leviticus Chapter 17. Again, what are we on? Holding by the Book of Leviticus Chapter 17. We are in verse 11, right? Still in verse 11. Over here, the Torah says, Ki nefesh habasar, b'dami, v'ani nesativ lachem, al mizbeach, l'chaper nafshosechem, ki adamu b'nefesh, yichaper. So here, again, the Torah says, the life of the flesh and the blood, I given it to you upon the altar. It makes an atonement for your soul. For the blood is the life that makes atonement. So we spoke about the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, right? That brought down this idea why it doesn't say just in the flesh, why it says the soul. Why it says the flesh is in the blood, right? So we spoke about that. And we spoke about also this idea of eating meat in general, right? So we mentioned the idea that before the flood, here the vegans are going to say, that they're right, and that we're only allowed to eat vegetables, right? We weren't allowed to eat meat until after the flood, right? That is true. But after the flood, God allowed us to eat meat. So you see, it was in the plan. Obviously, it was in the plan to eat meat, and you have to be on a certain level to be able to eat meat. If ignoramus eats meat, it's not good for them, right? It's certainly not good for them. Because again, by Shabbos, by festivals, it says no greater joy than having meat and drinking wine, right? Even if you don't necessarily like wine, drink a little bit. It's supposed to give you great joy, right? Meat, the same thing. Again, the person's on the level to eat it. But here, I just want to point out one thing, and we'll see where this goes, and that is that the Orach Chaim HaKadosh over here says, right? He makes clear that he says that the desire of the soul, or the desire of the person, let's say better, person has a desire to eat meat, right? They have a desire to eat meat. So let's analyze for a second. Why? What, fish isn't good enough? Vegetables isn't good enough? But God understood. See, this is the point. God understood man has a desire to eat meat. And meat can have positive effect on the person if they're worthy of eating meat. A fool shouldn't eat meat, right? Someone is ignorant in Torah. It affects them differently. Affects them in a different way. Now you're going to say, come on, person eats meat. It's very filling, makes you tired, different things. Okay, but has a purpose. Eating the flesh as a person can strengthen a person. A person shouldn't eat too much of it, right? Cause other problems, health issues. But, meat, meat's a good thing if a person uses it in the right way. A person's holding somewhere in the world. But he says over here, and he brings from a verse in Deuteronomy, chapter 13, verse 20. Sorry, chapter 12, verse 20. He says the desire of the soul is eat meat. Right, I'll get there one day, I don't know when. Right? The desire of the soul is to eat meat. So meat is permissible. Is the problem. Torah don't tell me how I'm supposed to kill it. How am I supposed to kill the animal? Right, in general. Torah doesn't tell me. Right, that's what we have oral law for. But essentially, I get an obligation, at least on Shabbos or a festival, to eat meat. Right? See, this is one of the miracles the Book of Leviticus speaks about. Right? He says, I think in Sharm Bechina, the gate of reflection, and he says that God put into the soul of a person, put in our DNA to want to eat, to want to drink. Because if God would not put that in our DNA, what would happen? We wouldn't eat. Right? We for sure wouldn't eat. We wouldn't drink. Body wouldn't survive. Right? If God wouldn't put into the soul, into the psyche of a person, to want to be with someone of the opposite sex, you wouldn't have children. The world wouldn't be populated. Right? That would be bad. World won't function. So just like God gave man a desire to eat, a desire to drink, so to speak, and you have to know how to do that, because the Ramban says in the beginning of Parshas Kedoshim, chapter 19, we'll get there. The second verse says, "The Be'er Kodas B'nei Yisrael, Yamarta Aleim, Kedoshim Tiyu, Kikadosh Ani Hashem Elokeichem." God says to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel, to the congregation of Israel, say to them, you should be holy, because I'm holy. Because I, the Lord your God, am holy. Very good. What does that mean? So says the Ramban, food is permissible to eat, but I want you to curb your desires. I don't want you to eat whenever you're hungry. Yeah? I don't want you to go beyond what you should do. I don't want you to be fat, overweight, be a glutton. But you're allowed to eat. You're also allowed to drink, says the Rambam. I don't want you to be an alcoholic. But you're allowed to drink. But think about what he says here. He says a person has a desire to eat. Very good. Because if you didn't have the desire to eat, what would happen? You die. Person would die. He's saying you have the desire to eat meat. What does meat do? Essentially, what does meat do? Strengthens the body. Again, you eat too much of it. It's very heavy, very good, but it strengthens the body, gives you nutrients. But you can't eat the soul of the meat. Can't eat the blood, right? That's what we've been speaking about all these weeks. You can't eat the blood, but you can eat the meat if it's killed properly, right? A Jew, if it's killed properly, right, according to Jewish law, very good. But again, he's telling you God put in the desire of man to have meat. So I'm just taking it one step further, not just meat. Other food, drinks, water. Because without this desire, says Chosavavos, you wouldn't eat. Your body wouldn't be sustained. Essentially, you would die. Right? You go 3 days or whatever without food or without water, right? Certainly water, you'll die. Essentially, you'll die. So the person will say, very good. That's the way God set it up, right? That's our DNA. That's within our DNA. It's pretty miraculous. Yeah, the fact that a person would have desire to want to eat. God made all kinds of food in the world. It's going to satisfy everybody. Even someone who's very finicky and doesn't like to eat a lot of things will still be able to survive. They can eat bread. Bread's the staff of life. Can eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches your whole life. Still live, plenty of years. Right? But he gave the ability for people to eat. So many things to eat. Not only that, Kosovo says that the earth itself is full of water. 70% of the earth is water, and it's all free. So we can get water. Also pretty miraculous. Right? The way everything is set up. But a person's gonna say, come on, this is obvious, this is nature. Yeah. This is what the human body is. Okay. But it's very interesting. Very interesting to think about it. Why should that be? You're gonna say it's a natural attraction, normally, right? You get all this generation. The natural attraction between man and a woman. Right? The Torah says clear. Man should cling to his wife. Doesn't say should cling to another man. We're going to see Leviticus chapter 18. This can't be homosexual. Can't act on it. Whole question whether you should think about it or not, but for sure you can't act on it. All right, that's forbidden. that's going to be forbidden. Now, if every man acted on it, yeah, they don't want to be with women. Very good. You won't have an next generation. Oh, he can tell me, women get pregnant in vitro and all that. Very good. We'll keep this clean. Okay. Right. But that's not the way God set it up. That's not the normal, quote unquote, the normal way. And as we said before, that even if science would prove that there's a homosexual gene, even if that would be true, well, we have a lot of bad genes, don't we? Anger gene. I don't want to help others genes. Lashon hara genes. Don't we have a lot of bad genes? Sure. That means the person's at more of a disadvantage, right? But even if they're more at a disadvantage and they have more of desire for whatever you feel in the transgression, very good. Does that mean God wants you to act on it? I don't think so. But you have more of a disposition. So a person get upstairs after 120 years. And what's the person going to say? Person's going to say, or God's going to ask them, why'd you keep Torah mitzvahs? Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? So what's the person going to say? You gave me these desires. Right? You gave me these desires. Very good. What's God going to answer? You're right. I gave you these desires. Maybe you got more of this or more of that than other people. Okay. Did I tell you to act on it? No. I didn't tell you to act on it. It's part of my DNA, right? We have DNA from our parents, whether we like it or not. So we get the good, the bad, and everything else in between. Okay. Now the question is how you deal with it. And how it's nurtured. And how a person grew up. Right? As we always say, Mr. Pirkei says, right? We'll get there one day. Right? It says that ethics for our fathers, you're born against you, you die against you. Right? Kaufman would say in parentheses, you still have to live. Okay. Gotta live. So if I have to live, to know how to live. Right? And we're at a disadvantage. Because we're not in control. We're not in control of anything. Right? That led me to my question. If someone's born a Rockefeller, they hit the top of the pyramid. Yeah. So what do they have to work for? They got all the money. Right? Brothers say, no, you got to invest it, you got this, you got that. You still have to work. But if they reach the top of the totem pole, no pun intended, then what's it to work for? Where's the incentive? You got everything. You're not lacking anything. Generations. Right? So God put in the desire for a person to want to succeed. Person want to be the best at whatever they're the best at. To succeed, many different ways to succeed. Whether it's scholastically, whether it's, through arts, design, whatever. Right? The Book of Leviticus says in the gate of Emunah, faith and belief in God, the Book of Leviticus says that for a person to be successful in this world, what did God give you? God gave you two things. One of two things. Either he gave you brains, and if he gave you brains and you're over intelligent, you'll be able to make ends meet in this world. Right? All things being equal. Or let's say he didn't give you so much brain. Yeah? Let's say a person's not that intelligent. All right, we're not saying he's mentally challenged, but let's say, they're not that intelligent. So what would God give them? How are they going to succeed in this world? They'll give them brawn. They'll get muscles. They can do physical labor. They'll be able to survive one way or the other. It's also pretty miraculous. You would think, okay, anyone who's not a road scholar, anyone who doesn't have over 100 IQ, you're not going to make it in this world. And even in this world today, so you got to know how to do a lot of different things, right? Because things could be outdated. You got to know how to multitask, do a lot of different things, potentially. Listen, if you're in one field and you don't have to, branch out to other things, good. Right? But again, sometimes things change. So God gives you that ability to adapt. Tremendous ability. So again, if it's not brain power, which again, there are people out there not so smart, whatever reason, right? They're not mentally challenged, but God gave them strength. So either way, a person's going to be able to make it in this world. It's no excuse. Right? There's no excuses. If somebody, someone will tell me, well, they were doing very well, this, that, and then trauma came. Certain trauma came, whatever it is. Okay, That could throw a wrench. That could throw a wrench in the plans. Because then, a person got major setbacks, major hangups that, they may have to go through therapy to deal with. Okay, that's a different issue. All I'm saying in general, all things being equal, a person has all the tools for success. Now, someone will say, but why is this person not successful? Now, let's say, for instance, the person decides they go into a field there's not a lot of money in. Now, a person makes that choice. Okay. But they know they're going to struggle because they don't make so much money. But that's what they're good at. So the Torah says, you don't go outside what you're good at. Right? Most likely, what's the reason? Because you'll be bitter. You'll be angry. You want to do what you're gifted to do, what you're good at. Now, what you're good at doesn't necessarily make a lot of money. Plenty of writers out there, plenty of artists out there starving. Right? You got to get a good break. You got to get lucky. Right? Or you got to get God to help you over here, let's say better. Right? But people can suffer that way. If you want to be actors, I'm not saying anyone should be an actor out there. A person's going to struggle for a long time because very few people actually make it. Get jobs here, but nothing major. They end up doing other things in order to, pay the bills, let's say. But person should stay at what they're good at. What they're good at doesn't necessarily mean they're going to make money from it. Right? There's a whole other thing. Because the person will say, well, this is really what I'm gifted to do. Everyone knows what they're good at. Everyone, should know, let's say better, should know where their talents lie, at some level. But at the same time, knowing where your talents lie, utilizing them and making money from it is a different thing. Right? But you want to do something that you're good at or that you feel you're helping others. Why? Because you want to feel it's worthwhile. Not just trying to sell something that you don't really care about, even though it's going to make you money. Because a person like that, they're not going to sell it with their full heart. They have no interest in selling it with a full heart because they don't necessarily believe in the product. Right? If you're going to sell something, you're going to believe in the product. You're taking care of someone's pain or someone's, aggravation. Let's say, a person dire straits, they have to sell. Right? Let's say they have a house, apartment. They have no choice. They have to sell. Right? So person puts out an ad, a catchy thing that's going to answer what they're missing. Right? It's going to hit their pain points. So that you're more likely to get someone in a situation where say, hey, this person can, maybe can help me, out of my situation. But again, it's helping others and helping you make money at the same time. Now, obviously not everyone's a salesperson. Not everyone likes to do these type of things. Okay, whatever a person likes to do, but you have to keep in mind that, wow, I'm putting my best foot forward, but I don't make enough. Okay. If you're in a field that doesn't make enough, so you have to compensate for that. It's not like God's going to give you a windfall and say, okay, you're going to choose, person's going to be a social worker. Yeah. Person's going to be a teacher or whatever. Shouldn't teachers, teaching the next generation, shouldn't they get paid like a lawyer? Should. Right? They're doing good work. Hopefully teaching good values, to the next generation. But people know that's not a field that's going to make a lot of money. Especially in the Jewish world. You got, women after seminary, 19, 20 years old, want to go and educate. They don't pay them anything. Right? They pay very little. Right? Also, men to be rebbes in schools also don't pay enough. And schools are always in deficit. They always need money. Right? No matter what they charge, they always need money. They're always, and these people are totally underpaid. So you have, real talent. Right? People that are really good at what they do and really talented, but a lot of people are not going to go in these fields. Why not? Because there's no money in it. Right? We're not talking about, they're looking to become rich. That's a different issue. We're not talking about that. We're just, let's say the first married. So, let's say, the husband is learning, so she has to bring in money. Right? She's going to have to bring in some money. They'll probably get helped along the way by parents or in-laws or whatever, for the first few years or whatever it may be. Very good. Very good. But her paycheck's not going to go that far. Forget about whether a person should be sitting or at the beginning of marriage or not. That's not the issue, right? But that paycheck's not going so far. It is not going to go that far, right? So there are, and this has been, this has been the news for a long time, that there are, good qualified people who will not go into that field because there's no money, right? Essentially, there's no money. So, try and change that a little bit, try and raise more money, right? So people should get, halfway decent salaries, but again, if you're not going to get paid that much, why would they go into it? That's why I had someone comment on one of my posts, whatever, a few years ago. Said, come on, scamming off and on Jews, why don't you get a real job? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, first that I get you in business, get you this. I was like, well, I love what I do. Very happy with what I do. Can help people. But it's not a real job. Make what I do look easy. Right? Not bragging here. But again, so I was like, oh, it's extortion. Extortion? Someone told me once, what would your Rebbe say? They say I don't charge enough. That's what he would say. What are you letting people get off so easy? Right? But we're not going to go there. That's not the point. Right? The point is there are fields that don't make a lot of money. So even putting your best foot forward and you're praying a lot and this and that, if a person in the field that doesn't make a lot of money, you got to compensate. You got to put your best foot forward. Compensation over here means, you're not going to make that much money. So you're going to compensate, do other things, maybe things on the side, different things, right? In order to make ends meet. But you have to be really idealistic here. Because, at the end of the day, the person's making very little money. They're not going to be motivated to do what they're going to do. Well, forget about that. They're not going to do it. They're not going to go into that field. And we're losing a lot of people because of that. Because there's just not a lot of money, right? Not a lot of money to be made. But these jobs, training the next generation, it's a huge thing. And inspiring the next generation, that's not worth a lot. Isn't that worth more than what a lawyer gets paid? More than an accountant gets paid? Should be, I would think. It's a more important job. You're educating the next generation. You want to tell me a lawyer's more important than that? I don't think so. Maybe certain things, but in the bigger scheme of things, you have the ability to influence the next generation, and all that. It's a huge thing. Right? So anyway, point here, we're getting sidetracked, right? The point is God put inside of us the ability to have desire. Desire for food. Desire for someone of the opposite sex. Yeah, desire for drink. Plenty of desires that if we wouldn't have, the human species wouldn't survive. That's for sure. Yeah, and there wouldn't be a next generation, right? And people would die. People would die very quickly, right? Without this desire, right? Without the desire to eat, drink, or whatever it may be. Comes along the Rabbeinu Bachai. Now the Rabbeinu Bachai is going on the Ramban. There's a long Ramban we went through a while back, right? So he says in the name of the Ramban, he says there are a lot of reasons we're not allowed to eat blood, right? Jews are not allowed to eat blood. Now, what's one of the reasons? Right? He says one of the reasons is because what is the blood? What's in the blood? The soul. Where does the soul come from? From God. Right? Because the Torah says in the book of Genesis, God breathed in the spirit of life. He breathed in the spirit of life to man. Very good. So where does the soul come from? Comes from God. So one of the reasons you don't eat blood, because the blood is the soul is in the blood. Right? Because the soul of the flesh is in the blood. Right? And where's that soul come from? From above. Right? And he says, just like chaylev. What is chaylev? Fats. Just like put the fats on the altar. Right? The fats go to God. as we saw before in chapter 3, verse 16. And so too, what do you do with the blood? You put it on the altar, right? You sprinkle it on the altar. Therefore, comes along the Torah says, therefore, it's going to be forbidden. It's going to be forbidden in this chaluk. This fat's forbidden. Why? Because it's a chaluk me above. It's a portion of God himself, so to speak, not that he's physical. Yeah, but he's saying if you put that up there, it's like putting the soul up there. Right, so therefore the blood's going to be forbidden, but blood's going to be forbidden, and it should go on the altar, just like the fat goes on the altar, and the fat's going to be forbidden for us to eat. Same thing by the blood, same exact thing. And that which you want to say that blood's going to be forbidden, right? Blood of a domesticated animal should be forbidden. Why? Because even though that blood, that doesn't go on the altar, right? That animal doesn't go on the altar, right? It's not fitting to be a sacrifice. Now, says the Rabbeinu B'chai over here, it's a little bit different language than what the Ramban said. He says that there wasn't a decree made, wasn't a half decree. Wasn't a half decree made. Now, what does that mean? So same way it means like this, that we want to be far away from eating blood, right? So so the blood of the person doesn't come in contact with the blood of an animal. It's like you're eating the soul of the animal, right? Even though we don't say that by forbidden fat, we don't say, oh, the fat becomes part of the fat. We don't say that, but blood, we saw blood gets into the system very quickly, right? The system absorbs blood very quickly. So the blood goes strictly in, so the blood that the person would eat goes strictly in the bloodstream, right? It goes very quickly in the bloodstream, right? And blood is not recognizable, whether it's the blood of a domesticated animal or a bird or any other type of animal. Let's say you don't know the difference. To the average person, blood is blood, right? You wouldn't know the difference. You wouldn't know if it comes from a domesticated animal, a bigger animal, right? You wouldn't know, right? So here, the Rebbeinu B'chai says that, when it comes to blood, we don't make half decrees here. We don't say maybe this blood is okay, other blood, not okay. No, blood across the board, any type of animal, right? Whether it's a domesticated animal, whether it's a bigger animal, let's say like a cow or something like that, or the blood of a deer, or the blood of a bird. Blood is blood. Any animal, the blood is going to be forbidden. You're going to tell me, but what's the difference with chaluk, with forbidden fat? Now, forbidden fat is recognizable, very clear. Goes in the body, right? Even though it goes in the body, right? It's not going to go directly into, the fat is not going to go directly in the fat, where it's going to go in the bloodstream. Very good. Yeah, but that's recognizable. If you take blood from an animal, is there any difference between the way the blood is or not? Could a person, you put 3 cups of blood, yeah? You take a look at it. One of them is a bird, one of them is a smaller animal, one of them is a bigger animal. You put it in front of you, you're going to be able to tell the difference? No. Blood is blood, but what's the issue with blood here? The issue is, first of all, you're eating the soul of the animal, very good, but blood is easily digestible. So what happens to the blood? It goes directly in the bloodstream, no pun intended. It goes straight into the bloodstream. Once it goes straight into the bloodstream, the soul of the animal gets mixed in with the soul of the person within the blood. That can't happen, right? That you can't have. So comes along the Rebbeinu B'chai and says, blood is blood. Doesn't matter. Smaller animal, bigger animal, we don't distinguish. Going to be forbidden. That's why the Torah wants to come and say that any blood, whether it's a bigger animal or a smaller animal or even a bird, not going to make a difference, going to be forbidden. Going to be forbidden over here. That's one reason. Says Rebbeinu B'chai, give you another reason. What's the reason? Because this is the soul, and God himself did not allow us to eat the soul of an animal, i.e., what's the soul of an animal? Blood, right? The nefesh behemoth, the animalistic side of it. That's the only soul that the animal has. Where is the soul? Essentially in the blood, just like by a person, lowest common denominator, right? It attaches the blood, to the higher level, right? To the higher level of the soul, right? 5 different aspects of the soul. Though again, the smallest, the lowest level of the soul is nefesh behemoth, right? Is the animalistic soul, and that part of the soul is where the blood is, right? So if you don't have enough blood, obviously the person's going to die, right? But that connects the whole soul together, right, through the blood. So therefore, the soul of the animal, God's not going to allow us to eat it. Because we see by Adam Arishon, we see by the first man, says Rabbeinu B'chayei, that all animals, no matter who they were forbidden. We weren't allowed to eat meat. It's come along all the vegans and they're going to say, see, the Torah makes clear it's a higher level. It's a higher level to be a vegan than to really eat meats. But we know we're allowed to eat meats. Now, if a person's a vegan, let's just stop for a second. If they're a vegan because they don't like the taste of meat, okay. Not everybody likes the taste of meat, fine. They don't like the texture, makes them, it's too heavy, whatever it may be. But if a vegan's going to say, and there are plenty of them out there that would say, to kill an animal, and all the PETA activists, whatever you call them, going to be jumping up and down, screaming, and saying this is a great thing. You're not allowed to kill animals because it's cruel. That is heresy. If they say they don't like it, they don't like the texture of it, whatever it may be, okay. You don't like it, very good. That doesn't mean, by any stretch, it doesn't mean that you're not allowed to eat it. But if they're going to claim it's cruel to kill the animal for the sake of food, that 100% is heresy. And that's what some vegans say, right? Some vegans are pretty clear on that, right? No question. Because it's cruel over here. So says we find by the Marisha on the first man that it was forbidden for him to kill animals for the sake of eating them. He was only allowed to eat grasses and fruits, right? Very healthy, until came along Noah, and he through God, permitted to Noah to eat animals because they're allowed to be trapped for the sake of our use, for our merit, right? Remember, animals we can use for whatever we want as long as we don't abuse them, right? 100%. As long as we don't abuse them. But we'll say that animals, you can't abuse them. So therefore, I could use them scientific experimentation, right? In other words, I could use them to cure diseases or try and cure, right? Or try and cure diseases, right? That's not a problem, right? That for sure is not going to be a problem. Again, animal acts will say, oh, you can't do it, right? Animal acts say you can't do it. So here someone points out that God used animal skins to cover Adam. Okay. Can use it again. That's not a bad way of using them. God says you can use them whatever you want as long as you don't abuse them. So if God wants to use them, to cover him, so what's the problem? He's not saying you're allowed to eat it. Right? At the very beginning, they weren't allowed to eat it. Doesn't mean they couldn't use their skins. A person wanted alligator boots, couldn't kill an alligator, skin it for the boots. Why not? What's the problem? The only thing we see is God did not allow you to eat them. Okay. But I could trap them for other things. Right? I can use them, I don't know, make a coat, make a fedora, right? Kill all those minks for a fedora, right? For a spodek, for a strimel, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. What's the problem? Well, they're going to say it's cruel. Okay, skinning an animal, if they're dead, it's not going to hurt them. Skinning them alive might be kind of painful. Okay. But there's a purpose. If they're already dead, it doesn't matter, right? I can kill an animal for the sake of its hide. That's not a problem. That has a purpose, right? I remember telling someone, that, had this trial with how many minks, how many minks they killed for that. I can do it while they're alive, obviously. While they're alive, yeah, that'd be kind of cruel, right? That'd be extremely painful. Yeah, usually it's going to be done when they're dead. You got to say, but what did that mink deserve to have its, have its hair taken off, or skin taken off in order to make a fedora or a spodek, or ask even more basic? Why would it be permissible to kill an animal for the sake of sacrifice? Even if the animal's not eaten by the Kohen or by the one who brought it, it's going to be as a pure offering, a burnt offering. Burnt offering means the whole thing gets burned up. None of the pieces of the animal, nothing gets used for men. Totally just burnt up, totally to God, 100%. So a person can ask the question, well, that doesn't really seem to any purpose. Certainly not for man, okay. But God says, what did God say? I want you to sacrifice this animal. Right? So all the Peter Pan activists say that animal didn't do anything wrong. You're right. But God says, my name's going to get sanctified. My name's going to get sanctified for the sake of what? For this animal. Yeah, whether it's a free will offering, whether it's a burnt offering, whether it's a sin offering. So technically a person's right. That animal didn't deserve anything to have it done to it, right? Except one thing. God said, this is what I want. I want you to bring this animal as a sacrifice. Right? Some of it is going to go on the altar. Some of it's going to get eaten. Right? Whatever the sacrifice is, whatever it may be, very good. But it has a purpose. God says it has a purpose. I want you to bring it to me. Now, we're not into sacrifices today. We don't have a temple today. No one's doing sacrifice anywhere. Right? Not even not even in the backyard. That would be forbidden today. But even so, what does the word sacrifice mean? What's the Hebrew word for sacrifice? Korban. What's the root of the korban? What's the root of the word korban? Kufresh beis. Right? What does kufresh beis mean? Karev, to draw close. Right? To draw close. Right? That's what it means. Right? To draw close. So, if a person brings a sacrifice, doesn't that draw them closer to God? You're going to say, how? The animal dies, blood going all over the place. Where's the closeness? So, I was in South America many years ago. Went to see how they, I went to help out in a shechita and, saw them kill cows, and other things, that helped out with there. I tried to imagine from beginning to end. Imagine if a person brought an animal in order to be sacrificed, and they brought an animal, and that sacrifice is going to be what? Sin offering. So now imagine that animal is going to die. You're going to say, oh, but the animal didn't do anything. Right? The animal didn't do anything. But you have to bring a sin offering. It's your fault. You got to bring this animal. It's going to take you time. It's going to cost you money. But that animal should have been you. Right? So imagine you brought this animal. You see, it's going to be dragged in order to be killed. And that animal really should have been you. Now, if you have that mentality and you see it for yourself, and you see what happens to this animal. Now imagine, first of all, you're taking, when you brought it to the temple, it took you time to get there. It might have taken you a couple of weeks to get there. It might have taken you a week to get there, wherever you were. right? The animal costs money, costs a lot of money. So you're missing time, you're missing money. So now imagine you get there, that animal gets killed, but that animal, who should it have been? You. So if you have that mentality, you see this animal being killed. Very good. You saw this animal being killed. How is it possible that the person stayed the same after seeing the animal killed? How is that possible? So says the Vilna Gaon, says Rav Elijah Vilna more than 250 years ago, one of the things he wanted to see before he died was what someone looked like before and after bringing a sacrifice. Because he said it's not possible for a person to remain the same after seeing what happens to that animal. So I tried to imagine, thank God didn't make me vegetarian, but I tried to imagine what this is going to be like. So one animal comes in, and I tried to imagine this is the animal I have to bring. And this animal really should have been me. So then you see the animal get killed. Then you see the animal get cut up. We're going to keep this clean. Right? Animal gets cut up. And then you have to salt. You have to clean off, different parts and salt them. Right? And, clean them and salt them, whatever. And you see what it becomes in the end. So, for one animal, I watched from beginning to end. From the time the animal came in, the time the animal was killed, cut apart. And I mean, they were not small animals either, right? Cut apart and, what happened after and how they're salted and cleaned and all that. So comes along the Vilna Gaon says, imagine, this is what you were supposed to be. You were supposed to be killed. So he said it's not possible, not logically possible. A person goes in and comes out the same. Impossible. Because if a person really analyzes what's going on, right, even at a very superficial level, but they realize this was supposed to happen to them, right? This was really supposed to happen to them, and they're supposed to die for whatever their sin was. Shouldn't that make an impression on the person? In theory, should make an impression. 100% should make an impression. So the Vilna Gaon said the person impossible, unless their heart is hard as a rock. Impossible for them to be the same person. It has to invoke and arouse the person to tshuva, to real repentance, right? Because otherwise it's impossible here. Why? Again, what's the person going to do? They have to bring this animal, or they can pay for the animal when they get there. Okay, but they're taking time. They're taking time from the crops, from other things. Time is money, right? Money is time, however you want to look at it. Very good. So if that is true, then they're spending time, effort, and money for this animal when they sinned. Now, I would say, in theory, that should be a deterrent. That should be a very good deterrent of not wanting to sin. Because if you had to bring a sin offering, this is the same thing. It's going to happen over and over and over again. Right? It's going to take you a week to get there. You're going to have to cough up a lot of money. It's time. You want to do that 10 weeks out of the year? 20 weeks out of the year? 5 weeks out of the year? I don't think so. You got other things you need to do. Plenty of other things you need to do. Yeah. You don't want to have to be going, running to the temple every 10 minutes because of sin and sacrifice, whatever. You'll be in a poorhouse. You don't have any money left. So this should be a good deterrent. Should be. Comes on the Vilna Gaon and says, what's the biggest deterrent here? The biggest deterrent is when a person, if they would see that happen, They would see that animal die. They would see all the miracles that happened in the temple, right? That the Mishnah Pirkei Avos, in the 5th chapter speaks about. A lot of miracles that happened in the temple. Very good. How in the world can a person be the same? They say the animal is flying all over the place, the animal dies. Yeah. And what happens to the blood? Gets sucked up in the ground, disappears. There are no flies there, the Mishnah says. There were never any flies there. Imagine. One of the most disgusting areas. Yeah, I get all these dead carcasses and different things. Not going to be flies there? How are there not going to be flies there? Yeah, a lot of miracles happen. But here we're just talking about the fact of what he saw. And what he saw was this animal die in front of him. And that animal was supposed to be who? It was supposed to be him. He was supposed to die. Right? So comes along the Vilna Gaon. How is it possible? How in the world is it possible? He stays the same after seeing everything that he saw. Impossible. That's why the word korban, the word sacrifice, is kufresh beis, is to draw close. Because when a person brought a sacrifice, it made him closer to God. It drew him close. We don't have any connection to this. We have no connection to this at all. Yeah, even though we certainly believe, when the temple's rebuilt, we're going to go back to sacrifices, right? Very hard to imagine today, for us in quote unquote the modern world. There are a lot of things here. A lot of things that should happen, but they didn't. So many miracles that happened in the temple, but we have no connection to this. So, in my own small way, try to make it real. But that's exactly what the Vilna Gaon says. A person could never have been the same if they saw and understood that animal was supposed to be them. Impossible. Right? Impossible for that person to be the same. Yeah. So the vegans, again, the vegans, at the end of the day, they'll have a claim. They'll have a claim. This is cruel. God doesn't say it's cruel. God says, this is what I want you to do. And these are the type of sacrifice you're going to bring. That's going to sanctify my name, right? So people are going to say what? God says, these people should die, and these people are evil, and yeah, according to his criteria, I mentioned this last night, right, in Pirkei Avos. Someone said, it's contradiction, because God says, don't kill. One of the 10 commandments, very good. Don't kill, okay. Even though God says don't kill, why does God make a command destroy all of Sodom? Kill the Amalekites, kill these others. Yeah, so people are evil. It's not murder, that's not forbidden. You go to war, right? God says go to war against these groups, against these people. Go to war against 7 nations, right? When you come in the land, you got to conquer the 7 nations. Now, don't you know when you go to war, people are going to die? For sure, that's what war is. But God's telling you it's not murder, right? That's kind of cleansing over here. You're getting rid of evil people. God says, I can't have these animals. I can't have these people there. I want them uprooted. I want you to take them out. So when they came in, they took them out. It's not murder. We don't look at it as murder, right? But people have this issue that, oh, look, God's a vengeful God, right? You get him angry, he does this, he does that. God has a lot of mercy, plenty of mercy. These are things he doesn't want to do, but he'll do it, right? The Gemara says that, the angels want to sing God's praises when the Egyptians are drowning, right? The Egyptians who inflicted, so much pain, physical and spiritual, to the Jewish people, right? Only 20% of the Jewish people got out. Means 80% died in Egypt. So they caused physical and spiritual pain. Yeah. Should they be at least a little, they should be okay with the fact that God killed them? God drowned them? They allowed to be happy their enemy downfall? Okay. Right, the whole discussion exactly about that. But what does God say? What does God say? The Gemara says the angels want to sing his praises when the Egyptians are dying, and everyone agrees the Egyptians should die. They should be punished for what they did to the Jewish people. Nobody disagrees. Very good. So why in the world does God say you can't sing my praises because my creation is drowning? God's the only person that can feel happy and remorse at the same time. We can't do that. Humans can't do that. Yeah, in other words, God can say, yes, I had to punish them, and they deserve to be punished in a most severe way because of what they did to my nation, to my people. Very good. But God says, even on that, you can't sing my praises. Because even so, even though these people are evil and they deserve to be punished, guess what? They're still my creation. Mind-boggling. Mind-boggling to the extent when they're running after the Jewish people and they say God confused them, made darkness for them they couldn't see. The Jewish people could escape, and they admitted that God is fighting against them. For that alone, it's brought down they had the right to be buried. They were spit up on the dry land. Why didn't they die like bin Laden? Let the fish eat them. And then what we'd say, let the whales eat them, sharks eat them, whoever. Plenty of food for a long time. All these people that drowned. Very good. Fish food for years. For years, maybe months, I don't know. Whatever, for months, for years, plenty of food. Fish will never go hungry. Very good. Mind-boggling idea. The Egyptians admit that God's the one in charge and he's the one fighting against them. For that alone, they deserve to be buried. Really? That's unbelievable mercy. What would we have said? Let him get eaten by the fish. Any different than bin Laden? Let him get eaten by the fish. Let the fish take care of them. No problem. Right? We wouldn't think otherwise. Be a great thing, let the fish eat them. Comes along God himself, and God says, wow, this is pretty impressive. Right? Pretty impressive. Why? Because God himself says, they acknowledge me. They acknowledge that I was fighting against them. They acknowledge my existence. For that alone, they deserve to be buried. They have a merit to be buried. Nobody, after hearing what happened to them, what happened to the Jewish people, nobody in their right mind would say, bury them? Who's going to bury them? Let them die in the ocean. Let them be eaten by the fish. God says, but this is my creation. I don't want people singing my praises when they are drowning. But didn't you drown them? Isn't it obvious God drowned them? He punished them. Very clear in the verses. They deserve to be punished. And God played with them and decimated the entire country for different reasons. But he left Pharaoh alive. He left Pharaoh alive to see whatever happened. And there's a measure that says, where did Pharaoh end up afterwards? He became the king of Nineveh. Right? He was the most powerful person in the world at that time, of the world power. They threw him out. His whole country got decimated, became the king of Pago. So the book of Jonah, God comes back, and he tells Jonah, tell Nineveh, if they don't repent, I'm going to wipe them out. Who's the king of Nineveh? Pharaoh. He's like, I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. He repents, all the animals repent, right? They all wear sackcloth. God saves them. Mind-boggling. Yeah, but the acknowledgement in and of itself, just pointing out here, the acknowledgement in and of itself that God is running the show and God is fighting against them gave them the merit to be buried. Logically for us, doesn't make sense. We never would have said such a thing. We would have said, let him die. Let him get eaten by the fish. Deserve to be buried? Never. Never. So here, the Rabbeinu Bachai says, God allows you to eat meat. Right? He tells Noah, you're allowed to eat meat. And we're allowed to do whatever we want with animals as long as we don't abuse them. right? So the question comes up, okay, anyone's a no-hide out there, right? Are you allowed to trap animals for the sake? Are you allowed to go hunting? Right? Are you allowed to go hunting? Right? For fun. So what's the answer? Jews, certainly not. Right? Certainly not. Why? Because it's considered cruel. Right? Very much considered cruel. So what about non-Jews? Non-Jews allowed to hunt for sport. So Tsar Bar Chaim causing pain to animals or suffering. Difference of opinion. The Gemara says whether it's on a Torah level or a rabbinic level. Many hold it's on a Torah level. Okay, very good. Does that apply to non-Jews? Is that going to apply to non-Jews? Right? So many rabbinic authorities hold yes. Why? Why are they going to hold that it's forbidden? Because it's cruel. You're scaring animals. You're doing it for sport, not for the sake of food. If you're telling me you're doing it for the sake of food, different issue. Totally different issue. That's survival. Right? That's what we call pikuach nefesh, saving your life. Okay. That's a different issue. But if you're telling me it's just for sport, it's just for fun, that's a problem. Right? That is definitely going to be it's going to be a issue. Someone here mentioned, right? Honest work never pays. Teachers are way more important. Yeah. There's another thing, speak about how teachers aren't paid. People today certainly want to make a lot of money, right? Everyone wants to make a lot of money. Very good. But no one wants to work hard to do it. It's lack of a work ethic. Yeah. Everyone wants the easy life, right? Everyone wants the easy life. Plenty of money, and they don't have to work hard. Right? You see ads all the time. Do this, do that. Whatever it may be, build lists very easily. You don't have to sell anything. You don't have to, speak to people, this, that, and you make a lot of money. Yeah, good luck. If it works, good. But there's no work ethic. It's a different issue, right? There are two things here. More important jobs, like teachers should be paid more, no question, right? But, it's an upside down world. But also, people don't want to work hard. People want everything, not only they want everything for free, but they don't want to work hard. There's just a lack of a work ethic. And I see this many times. People want to convert. I'm not saying by everybody, by any stretch. Right? But people think everything should go smooth and everything should be easy. And people should be, rolling out the red carpet. That's just not the case. I'm not saying it should take 10 years or maybe even 5 years. Per se, it depends on the circumstances, but in general, you have to work hard. Person's going to have to give up a lot to get to what they want. Right? That's really the bottom line. We're not looking to just be all inclusive. We'll take anybody. You got to meet certain criteria. But I will tell you, comes King Solomon. King Solomon says in Proverbs, you got to want it more than anything else. If you don't want Torah more than anything else, you won't get it. You won't get it. You got to fight for it, and it's going to be hard. Now, does that have to be impossible? No. Doesn't have to be impossible, but I would say that anything that comes easy is probably not worthwhile. Most likely, it's not so worthwhile. You got to work. I remember, when I was first learning, I had certain questions, about what I was learning and this and that. One of my rabbis said, think. Well, you would tell me if I'm going in the wrong direction. He said, God gave you a brain, think. Sit there and analyze. You're on the right track. Or if I wasn't on the right track, you tell me I wasn't on the right track. Right? But think. It's not a bad question. I'm not going to hand it to you on a platter. You got to use your brain. Right? We only maximize 3% of our brain. But no one wants to think. Yeah, I see it all the time. People just throw out questions. Did you research it? Rabbi Dr. Google didn't answer the question, so to speak. I'm not saying that's why they're coming to me for the answer. right? There are complex questions. Very good. I don't have a problem with that. People don't want to work hard. The person's doing a crossword puzzle, person playing Sudoku, whatever it may be. What happens when you get stuck? For a lot of people, I'm not going to say everybody, what happens when you get stuck? For someone, if they really want to be challenged, they'll think about it, they'll analyze it, they'll this, they'll that, they'll come back to it. Very good. What are the other people going to do? They're going to look at the answer. They're going to look at the answer. Why are they going to look at the answer? Because they don't want to work. They say, oh, that's the answer. Good. So, then this fits in and that fits in and whatever. People don't want to work. One of my rabbis who helped invent plastic bottles, once told me, he was sitting with other, big time scientists or whatever. And like every 5-10 minutes, they'd get up, they'd get a drink, they'd have a cigarette, they had to, look out the window, this and that. They couldn't sit for any real length of time. Now, anyone who's ever gone to yeshiva and learned, you're sitting for hours, analyzing back and forth, this, that, getting books now, references, different things, looking things up. Yeah, you're using your brain constantly. Does this apply? It doesn't apply. Should it apply? You're constantly using your brain. So you're there thinking. You got to think it straight through. What do they disagree about? What is the text really telling me? What are the ramifications? A lot. There's a lot in learning to think about, right? We're just, showing a little bit how to analyze here, right? There's a lot to analyze, a lot to think about. But he's telling me people with great minds couldn't do it for any length of time. They get distracted or they distract themselves because it's hard. You got to analyze, you got to write up equations, erase equations, put this in, put that in, this didn't work, that didn't work. You got to be dedicated to it. Not just something that, someone's going to give you all the information. Say, okay, here's the information, work with it. Go do it. Sometimes, you got to think a little bit out of the box. I remember asking a question like, why would someone do this? That's not the question. They did it. This is the thing that was put in front of you right now. This person did this. The other person answered that. What are the ramifications? For any number of things. So you got to get in the psyche. What's going on? What does it represent? What is it? Is it a document? It's not a document. You have testimony. You don't have testimony. It's contradictory. Do you throw the whole testimony out? Only part of it? I mean, listen, there are a lot of questions, a lot of things. So you're sitting there, your brain's like on fire, trying to put like all these different things together. Not so easy. Not even, you have, that in the laws of damages, you have it in, in kashrus, you have it in, blessings, prayer, many things. A lot of different factors. Right? A lot of different factors. So you got to put, try and put everything together, but, not so easy. Not so easy. So at the end of the day, learning is hard and you got to extract things and you got to learn, sometimes two commentators will say the same thing, except they use different words. One person may use a different word, right? Or a few different words. But the question is, okay, why did you change the language here? Right? Do they really mean the same thing? Now, it could be they do, but it could be the fact that they left out a word or didn't say something the other person said could be very significant. So you're going to say, come on, all these picayune details. You're right. There are a lot of details, but the details of something missing or put in or whatever can have tremendous ramifications according to Jewish law. Yeah. So you got, so your head has to be working. You got to think. It's not just about, I want everything given to me on a platter. God gave you a brain. Okay. So if you thought about it and you thought about it, try to look up things, this, that. Okay. I'm not saying the person can't ask the question, but a lot of times people throw things out there and I'm like, okay, yeah, did you think about it? Did you really think about it? You're just throwing out the question. Now, if you're telling me you analyzed it and whatever and you got stuck, okay. Right. But, I have seen clear as day, people don't want to work. They just want the answer. Right. Now, it's a big mitzvah to give them the answer so they don't go down the wrong path. That's true. right? That that is true. So I'm making a lot about nothing. Okay. A person can say so. Okay, you give them the answer. Yeah, most likely, right? But again, there's criteria a person has to do. There are things they have to go through, and it doesn't mean it's going to be easy, and it shouldn't be easy. We're looking for the cream of the crop. Anyone who wants to come in, you got to fit the criteria. We're not looking to look for exceptions. We're not looking for that. You fulfill certain criteria, you do what you're supposed to do. Good, right? You're not coming in. And I've seen this also, like it's owed to me. Why is anything owed to anybody? I've been in this process for so long. Okay, very good. Yeah, and I live in a Jewish community. Everything should go smooth. I should be able to convert tomorrow. Things don't go that quick. They shouldn't go that quick, right? And if a person can't answer basic things, or even not so complex things, but they don't know the answer, there's no merit to converting for that. I'm not going to say you have to know everything. Well, there's not a merit in that. Why not? Because you're going to make serious mistakes. So you have to have a certain level of knowledge. Everyone wants to convert yesterday. Good. Right? But in the end, the Gemara says, why do converts have to convert and why they get tossed around like a rag doll? Why they have so many problems? Because they didn't learn what they were supposed to properly. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. So it's not to their benefit. 100% it's not to their benefit. I'm not saying it has to take 10 years or 5 years. Right? But a person has to know what to do. You have to know what to do. But you're not coming in, and I've seen this a lot also while I'm on my, on my soapbox over here, right? That a person thinks, they know better, right? They absolutely know better, and they want to reinvent the wheel. Very good. It doesn't work that way, right? There are no conditions. Imagine you go to a priest, right? You say, okay, I want to be a Christian. I want to be a Christian, but you're not pouring any water over me. I'm not going into a bathtub. I'm not going in the ocean. You're not putting any water over me. So it could be. That'll be okay. You don't have to do that. You pay enough. Fine. Right? Maybe. Or they can say, listen, this is the criteria. This is what you have to do. And that's it. Right? You go to a mosque. Right? You want to become a Muslim. And they're going to say, oh, I want to do this. I'm not going to do this or whatever. You think they're going to accept you? They'll say you probably deserve to die anyway. You're an infidel. Okay, very good. But you're not coming in with criteria. You're going according to what they tell you have to do. Right? I'm not saying you have to jump through all kinds of hoops. I'm not saying it has to be impossible. It has to take you 20 years or 5 years or 10 years. The average about probably a couple years, to get the information and live in a community. But you're not coming in with criteria. You're not coming in and say, well, I want to do it this way. Well, we don't do it that way. A person doesn't live in a Jewish community can't convert. Right? And someone will say, but it doesn't say anywhere in the Torah, it doesn't say anywhere in the Talmud I have to live amongst Jews. Well, how are you going to be a Jew if you don't live amongst Jews? Right? How is that going to be possible? Right? How in the world is that going to be possible? Not going to be possible. Right? No one's coming in. No one's coming in, with their own things. It's just not going to happen. So why should we be any different? Why should we be any different? Why should we be any different? Say, oh, that's so cruel, and my kids are doing more than most Jewish kids, and blah blah blah. All this very good. So what? You don't meet the criteria. That's it. You're not making up your own rule. Sorry to say, there's criteria. You might think the criteria is outdated, and it should be this, and it should be changed, and whatever. You're not going to change the system, right? You got to live amongst Jews. If you can't live amongst Jews, can't convert. You have a spouse doesn't want to convert. You have one or two choices. Either you get divorced or you stay as a non-Jew, right? Those are the two choices. We're not reinventing the wheel over here, right? We're not reinventing the wheel. So, it's not about what I think. Nobody cares what I think, right? It's about what the Torah says, what the commentaries say, what the rabbis tell us to do. And that's it. Because if everyone was doing their own thing, it'd be chaos. There'd be 20,000 different Torahs in the world, just like translations of the New Testament, right? How many translations of the New Testament out there? Thousands. Is one more accurate than the other? They're all mistranslations, aren't they? Right? So that would answer the question. I believe in JC? Nope. Definitely not. Someone asked, I look at religion and spirituality the same as equal weights and measures. So I'll tell you what the bottom line is. Bottom line is, did God speak at Mount Sinai or not? If God spoke at Mount Sinai to the Jewish people, both the Christians and the Muslims agree. God spoke to the Jewish people, 600,000 men between the ages of 20 and 60, not including women and children. It's about 3 million people. No other religion, so-called religion, makes such a claim. Now, if God spoke to the Jewish people, what did he tell them? Well, he gave us a book, right? Didn't he give us a book? It's called the Torah. You got to understand what the Torah says. So is it like equal weights and measures? No. If a person steals, let's say, right, if they steal a certain amount, they have to pay it back plus. If a person's a homosexual or commits adultery, yeah, they get the death penalty. That's not equal weights and measures. And men and women, if they're in obligations, right? Men have whatever their obligations are. Women, have many obligations, not the same as men, because they're not limited. So they are limited by things that are bound by time. Things that are bound by time, they're not obligated. Prayer is one of them, right? And a lot of things to do with prayer, they're not obligated in. Laws of kashrus, they're obligated in. Laws of not speaking lashon hara, speaking badly against others, they're obligated in. Laws of Shabbos, all the festivals, they're obligated in, right? But they are exempt from things that are bound by time. They even sit in a sukkah, they're exempt, but by Ashkenazim, they can make a blessing in the sukkah. By Sephardic people, since they are not obligated, they don't make a blessing, right? If they can sit in the sukkah, good. Even if they could, they don't make a blessing. So there are differences, right? There are differences between men and women. Okay. Now, even with that, there are more severe sins, less severe sins. But remember, any sin a person does takes them far away from God, essentially. Right? It's like taking a step backwards, or 2 steps backwards, or 5 steps, backwards. So all laws are not the same. They're not meted out the same. Right? There are 2 laws that we know that if a person does them properly, you get long life in the next world. Right? One of them is honoring parents, gives you long life, and shooing away the mother bird and taking the eggs. Only 2 that tell us what the reward is. Right? Other things, we're going to get reward, no question. Right? In the next world, the question is how it's meted out, how it's weighted. And we don't know that, because if we would know that, if we would know according to every command what the reward is going to be, if there was, if you know that there's a command that's worth 1,000, and there's a command worth 100 or 5, what commands are you going to do? The ones that are worth more, right? So they're not equal, 100%. They're not equal, right? The question is, are they same? No, they're not the same, right? They're definitely not the same, right? They're not even close to being the same. Some are worth more, right? Worth a lot more. Some not, right? I give an example. A person speaks badly against someone else, a Jew. They speak badly against someone else. Yeah, how many prohibitions there? More than 30. And speaking badly against someone else, we still haven't learned the lesson, because the temple still hasn't been rebuilt. Right? Temple still hasn't been rebuilt. Right? So obviously we haven't got that lesson yet, but there's 30 prohibitions in one shot. So that's not equal to other things. Right? Many say that the speaking badly against someone else is worse than idolatry, immorality, and murder altogether. And those are the 3 you have to give up your life for rather than die. So if a Jew or non-Jew put a gun to your head, to a Jew's head, doesn't apply to a non-Jew. If they put a gun to a Jew's head and say, bow down to this guy in the stick, right? A reference to JC, or a short little fat guy, Mr. Buddha himself says, hey, bow down to fatso or die. You have to be willing to die, right? But lashon hara is even worse than that. I'm not saying you have to die for it, but you might have to give up your livelihood for it. Chofetz Chaim says the laws of Lashon Hara, if your employer wants information that you're not allowed to give over, forbidden for you to give over, right? And the employer says, if you don't give me over the information, I'm going to fire you, right? I'm absolutely going to fire you. Then you have to lose your job. You're going to say, that's how far it goes? Yep. That is how far it goes. So that's pretty severe. Person desecrates Shabbos in public, death penalty. That's pretty severe. Not everything's the same. 100% not everything's the same, right? They're weighted. Different things are more severe than others. Somebody asks, in regards to what parts of the forbidden, the hind parts are forbidden, right? Right, quarters or intestines, brains, forbidden to eat. Yeah, forbidden to eat. Right, the Kohen are doing something with the kidneys. Yeah, they're supposed to eat the kidneys and the fat. Certain fats you're allowed to eat. Right, there are certain fats that are permissible, other fats are not permissible. Right, but even let's say the heart or the heart, as we would say in Boston. Yeah, the heart, a person shouldn't eat. Even if it's a ritually slaughtered animal, shouldn't eat. Why? What's the problem? Cause you to forget your Torah. Right? So certain things that even if they would be permitted, right, you wouldn't eat them. People eat hearts today, right? Jews should not eat kosher hearts. Even if the animal's ritually slaughtered, we don't eat them. We have a tradition that eating them causes you to forget Torah. Person ate like a ton of olives, also brought up. Person ate like an absorbent amount of olives, could also cause you to forget Torah. Different things. No one said you can't eat olives, right? Within reason. Now, is there any problem really? If I didn't know this, and that was a problem that could cause you to forget Torah, would it be okay to eat hearts? Yes. Would it be okay to eat brains? I don't think so. I think that still would be forbidden. But certainly in either case, we said before, blood is forbidden. Right? Bread is forbidden. Blood is going to be forbidden. When you read the smoke perfume, you're thinking, no, I'm thinking the smell of perfume, incense. Yeah. Let's analyze. Right? Let's analyze. The beginning of the Torah says, right, if I find it here, that we said this before. See if I find it here. Of course, when you're looking for it, you never find it. Yeah. It says, Leviticus Chapter 1, verse 13. Right? You had the legs and the flesh that were washed. Cohen brought all this. He brought up on the altar. It was a pleasing smell. Pleasing fragrance. What's that pleasing fragrance? Right? Pleasing fragrance is not a good smell. What we would think is a good smell. Why? Because very simple, God doesn't have a nose. It's an anthropomorphism. It's a good smell. Very good. What does a good smell represent? Rashi over there says. The good smell over here means that the Jewish people did what God said. That's what the good smell is. Because God doesn't have a nose. God doesn't have a body. Right? It's an anthropomorphism. What do you think? God's got a big schnoz. He's like, oh, what a beautiful smell. No, it's an anthropomorphism to say, I enjoyed what they did. This fragrance is beautiful to me, not in smell, because God doesn't have a nose. Right? What is it? What's the purpose of it? That we did what God said. That's why it's pleasant. Right? That's why it's pleasant. Right? So the saying that the smoked meat smells of perfume, no. Right? You think that's what the incense is, gave over smell. Okay. But again, when the Torah says it's a pleasant smell, it doesn't mean the smell itself. It can't mean the smell itself because God doesn't have a nose. Right? It means that the Jewish people did what God said. Right? Essentially, they did what God, God said. That's why it was pleasing. Right? That's why it was pleasing to him. Someone here asks that people who are non-Jews, not capable of understanding easily, follow the Torah. Right? It's like a teenager, not fully mentally developed. Okay. Yeah. More of them being really naive, and totally wrong that they do know better. Now, let me ask you. I'll ask you like this. I started these classes from the book of Genesis, right? More than 10 years ago. I started from the beginning of Genesis and went through the book of Exodus. Right? In 10 years, I've gotten to Leviticus chapter 17. So you see, I haven't got that far. So I had somebody say, why do I need your classes? I know the Bible from cover to cover. I've been learning it for years. I almost know it, by heart. I said, okay. I said, did you ever read the story of Lot and his daughters? Incest. Through Lot comes Moab, right? Me'av from my father. She wasn't so modest, right? Me'av, Moab, right? From my father. Who came out of Moab? Daughter or granddaughter? Whole question what the lineage is exactly, right? But who came out of Moab? Ruth. Who came out of Ruth generations later? King David. I said, very strange, right? King David comes from an incestuous relationship through his great-great-grandmother, Ruth, who comes from Moab. I said, I bet you never, thought about that. So then I said, okay, what about the story of Tamar and Yehuda, right? Tamar has a husband, he dies, marries his brother, he dies, and Yehuda puts away his other son, doesn't want him to die. So he goes on the way. She goes back to her father's house. She dresses up as a prostitute. He has relations with her, and kingship comes from the tribe of Yehuda. Now, the whole question if he stayed with her, he didn't stay with her, right? Because it's forbidden for a father-in-law to be with a daughter-in-law, right? That was before the Torah was given. Okay, so I said, I bet you never thought that kingship never leaves the tribe of Yehuda. I bet you never thought that that's the way kingship's going to come. So the person then asked me, okay, Rabbi, what's your point? I said, my point is, I don't believe you understand the Torah as well as you think you do. Yeah. All these non-Jews out there, Christian, Muslims, whoever they are, the way they look at the Torah, the way we look at the Torah, totally different. Now, why would that be? They'll say we have our own translations. We have our own commentaries. Okay, but who's closer to the source, them or us? We are. Yeah, don't you think we would know what the Torah says, right? And what it means more than them? What do the Christians do more than anybody else? They mistranslate because it doesn't fit their world outlook, right? Isaiah chapter 45, verse 7, total mistranslation, right? Because it says God created evil. For them, God can't create evil. Where does evil come from? The Satan, Mr. S, whatever you want to call him, right? The evil inclination, yeah? The angel of death, fallen angel. We don't believe in fallen angels. So plenty of mistranslations out there, and that's not my job to prove it, but that's one of them. That is definitely one of them. So how in the world, can they take the most difficult passages and try and think they understand what it is? Yeah. It's not a question of they don't have the mind capacity. They can be much smarter than us, a lot of them. They can be geniuses. Okay. Right? But even if you're a genius and you can't read Hebrew, if you can't read Hebrew, how are you going to know what it means? They're going to say, well, we have our own commentators. You have your commentators. What makes your commentators more right? Well, first of all, they're closer to the source. That's the first thing. Right? Second of all, we have a tradition. We have a tradition. Right? It's all based on, what the rabbis tell us. There are things black and white, what the Torah says, but the Torah is incomprehensible. Right? We just mentioned the Torah says don't kill. Yeah? One of the 10 Commandments, you're not allowed to kill. Now, what about euthanasia? No, that's mercy. It's not murder. We hold it's murder. Person's going to die, you hasten their death, that's murder. Or what about abortion? No, that's not murder. 2 months in, you kill the fetus. We hold that's a live entity. After 40 days. Torah doesn't give me definitions. Yeah. So how would they know what I mean? I give a better example. The Torah says the 10 Commandments don't steal. Yeah, what's my problem with that statement? The problem is the Torah says in other places don't steal. Don't steal money from somebody. Right? Don't steal what doesn't belong to you, whether it's money, property, whatever it is. Very good. So what's it doing over here? Torah never repeats itself for no reason. So it must be telling me something else. Either it's telling me don't steal and it's showing me something that we didn't know before. Right? It's coming to emphasize something wasn't emphasized before. Or it's not telling me that. That's not what it means. Commentaries on the spot say, you know what it means over there? It means don't kidnap. Doesn't mean don't steal. It means don't kidnap. I mean, it means not to steal, but it means don't kidnap. Now, how do they know it means don't kidnap? Okay, they have other sources tell me that. But what's the question? What's the main question? The main question is it already says don't steal. So if the Torah says don't steal, and I already know that, what's it coming to tell me? What's the novelty? It's going to be telling me something. Right? The Torah's not going to say something for no reason. So therefore, it's superfluous. If it's superfluous, then it must have another reason. Right? Must have another reason over here. So now, it doesn't mean they're not capable. Right? If non-Jews say, the Gemara says, if non-Jews say we have wisdom, you believe them, because they do have wisdom. But if a non-Jew says we have Torah, you don't believe them. Right? You don't believe them. Now, does that mean they're not capable of learning Torah? No. Doesn't mean that at all. Doesn't mean that they're mentally challenged in that aspect? No. What it means is if they don't learn it the proper way, they won't know what it means. They will not know what it means. It's not a question of being mentally developed or not. Right? You teach kids from a young age Torah. Right? You teach them how to learn verses and what they mean and what we're supposed to do and character development, and all that. Many things we teach kids. They're not mentally developed. Right? However, by the age of 20, they're mentally developed. Right? But they're not mentally developed at that age, so to speak. You teach them anyway, but you have to teach them the right way. Right? So it's not a question of being mentally developed. They can be mentally developed. They can be geniuses. They can be 10 times smarter than I'll ever be in 10 lifetimes. Okay. But they're not going to be able to learn a lick. They're not going to be able to learn anything because they don't have the right mentality. They're not being taught that. I shouldn't say the right mentality. They're not being taught the right way. So if they're not being taught the right way, and a lot of it's mistranslation, they're getting all kinds of gobbledygook. I don't care what level of understanding they have, they don't get it. They're not going to get it. Right? It has nothing to do with knowledge. Right? It has nothing to do with brain capacity. What it has to do with is getting the right information. So anyone listening, whether it came out of Christianity, paganism, or wherever, right? It's a very humbling experience because everything you learn, even from quote unquote the Bible, you have to relearn. Because nothing you learned is probably right. Or most of it probably isn't right. Maybe they got a few things right. Maybe. Right? I tend to doubt it, but I'll be a little bit generous today. But let's say, the majority they didn't get right. How do I know they didn't get right? Because I know. Because the commentaries tell us what it means. They have a right to interpret what it means. Right? That's what we have. We have 39 tractates of Talmud tell us what the Torah means. Right? And they don't have that. So they're not close to the source. So if they're not close to the source, they're not going to take what they say seriously. About the Torah. Because they're coming from a totally different place. Right? They're coming from a place of mistranslation and a lot of guesswork. But guess what? A lot of them can't read Hebrew for a lick. So why would I take them seriously anyway? But in general, right? In general, it's not a question of naivete here. Being naive. That's not the question. They're not giving the tools to understand. They're not even given the right translation to understand. So why should I assume? Why should I assume they have anything in Torah? right? I had someone tell me, it's like, anything I learned before, is it going to help me? I said, no, it's not going to help, right? Why is it not going to help? Because all the information they were given is wrong, right? How are they ever going to understand that, the real consequences here? They're not, unless they're properly taught. Now, Talmud's been translated in all kinds of different languages. So you're going to say, well, they'd be able to pick it up and learn it. They're going to learn it like a parrot. You need someone to teach you how to learn it. Because, they could read the words and say, oh, I understand this. It'd be very easy to turn them into a pretzel. To show that, yeah, they just repeated the words, but they have no clue what it means. Right? As intelligent as they may be. Clear. Right? Anyone's ever tried to learn Talmud on their own? It's clear. You won't get it. Unless you have someone teach you properly. And this has nothing to do with IQ. A person can be very bright. It doesn't matter. You're missing fundamentals. Fundamentals. I'll give an example. Right? I'll give a very simple example. Right? The Torah says, we'll get there one day. Right? Leviticus chapter 19. It says that it says that you have to rebuke your fellow man, i.e., a Jew has an obligation to rebuke a fellow Jew, and you shouldn't bear the burden, shouldn't bear the sin. Let's say better, shouldn't bear the sin. Face value, what does that mean? Seemingly, I would say, without knowing anything, I would say anytime a Jew does something wrong, got to rebuke him. Got to give him rebuke. Does a great job in public, got to rebuke him. But the end of the verse says, but you shouldn't bear the sin. Now, what does that mean? Bearing the sin means if you rebuke them, let's say you cause them to be angry. You cause them to hate Torah more. Are you allowed to give rebuke in such a case? Well, someone will say the Torah says I have to give rebuke. Very good. But I'll throw in another factor. What if you don't know how to give rebuke? What if you get an F in rebuking? Do I have an obligation to rebuke? Right? Would I have such an obligation? Because if you don't know how to rebuke, maybe you're exempt. Maybe 100% you'd be exempt. Because you're going to cause them to hate Torah more. And if you don't know how to rebuke, and you're living in a generation that doesn't know how to rebuke, or even previous generations, maybe all this doesn't apply. Maybe it won't apply today. Some people would say that, but it's not true. It's very complex. Right? It's a very complex thing over here. But at face value, without knowing anything, someone would say, you see a Jew do something wrong, you got to rebuke them. Now, is that true in all cases? Not true in all cases. The Gemara says that if a person hasn't slapped you upside the head yet, you didn't give enough rebuke. That's how far it goes, or it may go. Okay. But it doesn't give you clear right just to do whatever you want, to say, okay, someone does something wrong, I'm going to rebuke that. So someone once said this. And I said, but you're missing a lot of information here. Yeah, but that's what the verse says. Okay, you want to be a Karaite? Very good. You want to take it literally? Fine. But what does the end of the verse mean? Tell me, Malki. Tell me what the end of the verse means. The end of the verse says, don't bear the sin. The Torah doesn't tell me what that means. Now, a person could say, well, what happens if you rebuke them? They're oversensitive. You went too far. Right? Maybe that's the case. You went too far. They're oversensitive. Doesn't tell me that. Torah doesn't tell me that. Right? So I have no definitions here. So where am I going to get definitions from? In Leviticus chapter 23, we'll see one day. I don't know when. We'll see one day. It says sit in the sukkah. You have to sit in the sukkah for 7 days. Does the Torah itself tell me what a sukkah looks like? Boards, metal, does it have walls? How many walls? Does it have a roof? And it also says I got to take palm fronds. I have to take a nice smelling fruit, which no one's going to think it's a lemon on steroids, and esrog and willows and myrtle leaves. It says bring it in front of God. Well, isn't the whole world in front of God? Why I don't have any definitions here. It says bring, Alua, bring an esrog. How many? 1, 2, right? Or bring my nice smelling fruit. Does the Torah tell me what it is? But it says I have to bring them together. Now, what would I assume? If I don't bring them together or I get it wrong, do I fulfill my obligation? You'll say it was a good try, but how do I know what it is? We understand the tradition tells us it's an esrog, right? It's a lemon on steroids, right? A very bumpy esrog. Very good. After you go out, shut the door. Just close the. So no one's going to think that's the case. No one in the right mind is going to think that. How do we know? How do we know what it is? It's tradition we have. The Gemara tells us, the rabbis tell us. Yeah. So now you're going to take Christian scholars, you're going to take anybody else and say, I know what it is. I think it's a pomegranate. I think it's a pineapple. Someone's going to say it's a quince. Someone's going to say it's a peach, it's a plum. But what happens if you get it wrong? So where's their tradition? They don't have a tradition. They call it the way they think they call it. They interpret it the way they interpret it. Very good. So we have our own interpretation. That's what kept the Jewish people together for the last 3,000 years. Right? It's like meat. If you didn't have, an explanation of what the Torah means, it's like having meat without potatoes. Right? You're missing the whole thing. Right? I'll give a better example. Karaites believe in the written law. They don't believe in oral law. Right? They went against the rabbis. Very good. They went against the rabbis. Okay. What happened to the Karaites? Right? So I think there are only 5,000 in the world. According to Rabbi Dr. Google, they're like 50,000. Okay, let's say. Have you heard anything from the Karaites in the last 100 years? 200 years? You haven't heard anything about them. Zero. Right? Zero. So now, even when I tell me they're 50,000, what have they done? Have they done anything for the world, these Karaites? Pretty much, I would say, and I'm not the only one who would say this, right? Pretty much, they've disappeared. Karaites, 100% have disappeared. They disappeared from the face of the map. Now, even if you want to say that's a legitimate way, and they only want to listen to God and blah, 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 okay, where are they? Why'd they die out? Essentially, why'd they die out? Yeah. So bottom line is not a question of being fully mentally developed or not. Even if they are fully mentally, it's not a question of being rebellious. They won't have the answers. Even if they're fully developed, I'm going to make this very clear. They can be 25, 30, be fully developed and still not know a lick of Torah. And not know how to, first of all, they probably don't know how to read Hebrew. And even if, let's say they do. Okay. Can they tell me what it means? Can they learn? Can they understand what it means? Different issue. And most of them can't. Right? And even if they, we have our own interpretation, this and that. Okay. So I'm going to give you a yardstick. And the yardstick is, can you pass that down to the next generation? Got a lot of Reform and conservative Jews out there. They ain't doing a lick to do it. All the congregations are mostly non-Jews. Total disaster. If you can't pass it down to the next generation, it doesn't work. Right? You have a kid that says, I like chocolate, you like vanilla. How are you going to convince them to like chocolate? Right? They don't like chocolate. Well, I want my kid to put on tefillin every day. A friend of mine said in college. Yeah. When I have kids, I'm going to want them to put on tefillin every day like I do. But they're going to ask you why. What do you mean why? That's tradition. That's what we do. They want to sleep in. They don't want to do it. Doesn't mean anything to them. Doesn't mean anything to them. Why would they do it? You got to give them something. You tell them what it means, what it represents. Go a little bit deeper, which they can't do because they don't know. That's why all these congregations are all dying. They didn't want to tell me you can have gay rabbis and transgender and all these different things. But the problem's going to be 67% intermarriage. That's a disaster. And all these places are shutting down. And they will shut down eventually. Right? It's just a matter of time because the kids don't believe in it. Parents don't believe in it. But the parents want their kids to have something. The friend of my father would say, I said, repeat after me, Iskadal, Iskadal, she's going to die. That's the mourner's prayer. He said, you tell your son in Israel, we're never going to die. So I want to tell you what a prophet I am, right? Here to brag. I'll tell you my prophecy. I said they're going to die, right? They're for sure going to die. How do I know? Where's my prophecy? Where's my prophecy? So I said, why are they going to die? Because the average age of that synagogue was 75. It's called the mourner's minyan. If the average age is 75, they're going to die eventually. It's only a matter of when. Because everybody's old. That's just the way of the world. So this person tells my father, yeah, you tell your son in Israel, we're never going to die. We're never going to die. Okay. How many years did it take them to sell their synagogue? 2. 2 years later, they sold. We're never going to die. Of course you're going to die. You'd be an idiot to say you're not going to die. Where's the next generation? Where people in their 20s, 30s, 40s? They're not there. They don't want to be part of it because they don't believe in it. So why would they keep it? Very simple. Not rocket science. Not a real prophet by any stretch. But that's easy. If you have too many old people there, it will die. Right? All the synagogues are the same. There was a synagogue, 2,000 families. Very good. 2,000 families. Yeah, it died. Over time it died. Someone here says, very good. First job out of college, my boss said, great. Get everything you earned. Yeah. Yeah, it's because the person went to college doesn't mean that much. People give it, I mentioned this many times. People give it a lot more credit, than I think it definitely deserves. But, again, so someone here says, right, I'm worried you're being too naive. No, these people will never learn. If they don't get the right knowledge, they're not going to learn no matter how smart they are. They're not going to learn. Because the smarter they are, and let's say the more into quote unquote their religion, they're going to have questions. And they're going to have questions which are not answered. Whereas most people listening to this now came out of Christianity. That's how they came out of Christianity. Because it didn't make any sense. A lot of things didn't make any sense. But again, the more intelligent you are, doesn't mean you're asking the question. Right? Doesn't necessarily mean you're asking the question, but guess what? If a person's really searching for truth, which not many people are, if a person's searching the truth, they'll get to it. They'll eventually get there. But you have to want the truth. Right? So again, this is not about, people being rebellious and not getting, and being underdeveloped and this, that. Even I'm going further, much further. Even if they're more developed and they have a lot more knowledge, they ain't coming to the truth. Because of all the garbage they've been fed, all the lies they've been fed. Pretty clear. Right? They'll never come to the truth. This won't happen. But if they read these bad translations, poison, right? You're 100% right. If they're reading all these bad translations, right, aren't they going to get bad information? Yep. Right? And they're going to be fed the same lies? Yes. That's how they get out of it. The only way to get out of it is the person's really searching for truth. If they're searching for truth, they'll get to it. Right? Because the Gemara says, if a person wants to go in the right path, God will help them. If they don't want to go in the right path, God will not stop them. Very good. Yeah, but they have to want it. They have to want truth. Most of these people don't want truth. But you're right. They're already got 2 hands tied behind their back and getting smacked upside the head, and they can't fight back because why? They're giving the wrong information. So you're going to say, is it their fault? Not their fault, but God says, I didn't tell you to be stupid. 614th commandment, don't be stupid. I didn't tell you to listen to what they said. You got brainwashed. Other things in society you get brainwashed. Does you get brainwashed? Okay. You get brainwashed. That doesn't mean you're not liable. And if we'd all grow up in communist China, we'd be all waving the red flag and praising Mao and all that. Okay. But there are people who come out of China that become, no hide, they become Jews. Or in India, I get plenty of people in India, contact me. A lot of people, worshiping cows. Okay. So let them worship cows. But people can come out of it if they want. God gave you a brain to think, to understand, to make decisions. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? I don't think it makes sense. But a lot of people are brainwashed. Someone said, my father said, what, do you think I've been lied to the church for 50 years? Yes. You have been lied to. Yes. And they want you to be stupid for that reason. They don't want you to ask questions. They want you to have more faith. Why do they want you to have more faith? Because they don't have answers. They'll say you're a heretic. You can't think like that. You got to believe and you got to have faith and this and that. It's not about faith. It's about knowledge. Knowledge with understanding. Yeah. A lot of things can be understood with proper knowledge. Not a leap of faith. That's for the Christian. But people can come out of it. You see, people can come out of it. But it might take a long time because they don't want to be a heretic. They really want to do the right thing. And, it can take them time before they come out of it. That's really, that's really the bottom line. Somebody mentions God speaking to all his creation. Why not? Why can't God speak to all creation? You have to remember, God's infinite. God's infinite. He can do anything. Man can't do everything. We're finite. If God's not finite, couldn't he speak to all creation? What's stopping him? He's an infinite being. Right? Right? If he experiences everything right. Right? Everyone's got the ability. The bottom line is, everyone's got the ability to see the truth that they want. No one's closed off over here. Everybody has that ability. If you want to see it, you'll see it. If you don't want to see it, you'll be walking in the darkness. Right? Even, the Greeks are called darkness. And look what they brought to the world, education, other things. We're living in this Greek world, but they're called darkness. They're, worship of the body, hedonism. That's what they brought to the world. Right? That's not Torah. You can say, but they had unbelievable wisdom. Yeah. You can believe they have wisdom. You can't believe they have Torah. But the wisdom make them moral? Was Aristotle a moral person? Were other people with great minds moral? No. Why not? Very simple. Because just because someone teaches morality doesn't mean he's moral. Should be. Doesn't mean they are. Because you don't have a compass. Right? What's that compass a person needs? Absolute morality. Absolute truth. That's the compass. And if it's not absolute, then man can make up whatever they want. Right? They can make up whatever they want. So if they make up whatever they want, it's not true. So 100% it's not true. So, but again, all you have to do is be half, if you're halfway thinking, I'm not even saying full. If you're a quarter thinking, you read this text, you're going to say, come on, this doesn't make sense. No matter what they tell you, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, it'd be very easy to believe, Mr. S, or Satan, whatever you want to call him, is causing all these problems. Because then you don't have to do anything. That makes a lot of sense. Blame everything on him. Say a few Hail Marys, I'm good. Right? Pay the priest off a little bit, everything's good. Yeah. What's Judaism all about? I have to take repercussions of my act. I have to be careful what I do. Be careful what I say. If I'm a Christian, simple. All I do is believe in him. I don't have to do anything. It's called pass the buck. Very easy. Very, very easy. Right? Makes a lot of sense why it'd be so popular. I don't have to do anything. I don't take responsibility for what I do. You don't almost do anything. It's okay. He'll forgive you. He came to die for your sins. Very good. Total opposite of what Judaism teaches. right? Judaism is all about what I do. It's about what I think, what I do, how I interact with others. So it's about what I do, not about pass the buck. Yeah, I got to take responsibility, right? And they put a lot of fear in you. And what's the main fear? You don't believe in JC, you fry now forever. It's like most of the other religions. You don't believe in Muhammad, you don't believe in this one, that one. You're going to fry in hell forever. Judaism doesn't say that. Judaism says you want a portion of the world to come. Just do what the Torah says. That applied to you. As a non-Jew, you can have a portion of the world to come. We're not saying be like us or die. Right? Non-Jew doesn't have to convert. Not at all. If they want to, very good. If not, their choice. Right? They can stay a non-Jew. No one's obligated to do things. If they want to, good. Right? Eating not cause someone to forget Torah. Yes. That's one thing. If you eat a lot of olives, you have to eat a lot of olives also, as well. Someone who mentions ancient Mayans ate hearts and blood. Okay. Plenty of people today, by the way, they don't have to be ancient Mayans. They're eating blood. I don't think there's any question. I don't think there's any question that, a lot of people today are eating blood. So, but effects, for non-Jews, it's a different issue. But, definitely eating blood. I don't think there's any question. I don't even, talking about the ancients. Talking about people today. Are we supposed to stay away from incense? Are we supposed to stay away from incense? Yeah, a lot of incense can be used for idolatry. Right? So if it's used for idolatry, it'd be forbidden. If it's not used for idolatry, could a person use it? I guess. I don't know if they see anything wrong with it. As long as it's not used for idolatry. Right? As long as it's not used for idolatry, that's okay. It should be okay. Yeah, let me see. Are there any other question? Someone says, I've heard in combat, forgotten was this, you can coat the olives in olive oil. Yeah, that's a different issue. I said if you ate them by themselves, right? If you eat them by themselves, the problem. Right? If you eat them by themselves, right? If you cover them or coat them, yeah, that'd be a different issue. That would definitely be that would be a different issue. That would be a different issue, right? If you coat them, yeah, won't make you forget. So there are things like that. There are. I went through it a while ago. These type of things. To find these books, someone really went through them in detail. These type of these type of things. In any case, like I said, we don't eat hearts, and we don't eat. All we eat, all for sure we eat. It just, if you ate them, let's say in olive oil or other things, then you wouldn't have an issue. You wouldn't have an issue. If you ate a lot of them by themselves, that could cause it. That for sure, that for sure can cause it. We don't eat meat and fish together. Gemara says because it's a danger. Why is it a danger? Don't know. Right? But it's considered a danger. So anyone been someone for Shabbos, if they have fish first, so you have something strong to drink, let's say some liqueur or whatever, or you have bread or water or soda, whatever it is, wash out your mouth so you don't have both. So you don't have both tastes at the same time. Yeah. Any other? This is a very long Rabbeinu Bachai, so I'm not going to go further. Right? I guess I'll stop there. See if there are any other. Questions. Someone here mentions. Well, I didn't get this at the beginning, but someone here mentions all of us human beings are believers in what? What are they exactly believers in? A lot of people today say they're atheists. There are people with the, I had a quote many years ago being interviewed about going to rabbinical school from my small town, and my quote was, people say that they believe in God, and I think it's a bunch of garbage. Yeah. People say they believe in God, but what does that mean? What does that mean? You know, there are people out there, plenty of people out there, Bible thumpers, yeah, really believe in God and JC and New Testament and all that. There are some thinking people out there. I read a quote once: 1% of the people think, 4% think they think, 95% rather die than think. Yeah. You want to tell me there are a lot of thinkers out there? I don't know. I haven't met too many. There might be. There might be some, right? But I would definitely take I would definitely take odds with that human beings are believers. And what? What exactly are they believers in? They're believers in their body. They're believers in wasting time. They're believers in like what meaning they have in life. Watching football, baseball, eating, right? Why are so many people overweight? Because they made food into idolatry. What are they believers in exactly? I met a lot of very shallow people. I mean, I'm not saying everybody in the world is shallow. I've met a lot of shallow people out there that don't believe very much. Eat, drink, and marry, lest tomorrow I die, as the prophet would say. That's what they believe in. They want to make money. They want to have a good life. Believe in something higher outside of themselves? I don't know. Now, a lot of people disagree with me and say plenty of people out there believe in a higher power and this and that, just not the same way we believe. Well, maybe. Maybe. I guess I hang out with the wrong crowd. We've been around the wrong crowd. But, there could be a lot of people that say that. And I will still stand by what I say. I think it's a bunch of garbage. It's not a question, they don't believe in God the way I do. If you want to tell me they believe in a higher power, let's see. What percentage believe in a higher power? It's a very high percentage. Some people say probably it is. I don't know. I've spoken to a lot of people over the years. Some people say they do believe in a higher power. And a lot of people are like, nah, whatever. I'm gonna believe in a higher power. There's, so much evil in the world. So what do they believe in? Whatever they believe in. When they die, they're going 6 feet under. They believe, maybe they should do good things or whatever. Why? Based on what? I don't know. What's getting people to do things. You see, like all these mass protests against Israel, whatever. People believe in that. People believe we're committing genocide, even though it's a big crock. A lot of things people claim, they say things doesn't necessarily mean what they say is true, right? You pin somebody down. They say, yeah, I believe in a higher power. Well, what does that mean? What does a higher power do? What does he do exactly? Or she? What do they do? They in charge of the world? They would even run wild. What do they do? What do they do exactly? Right? You pin somebody down. What are they, what are they really doing? What are they really saying? Be interesting to do. Try it at home, ask people. And if they do believe in a higher power, let's say, you're not dealing with the atheists. They believe in a higher power. What what does that mean? What does that higher power do? What can it do? Yeah. Gotta be a lot of very cynical people out there. Because there's an obvious question. Because if there's a higher power, he's really supposed to be in charge. Well, he's doing a pretty bad job, isn't he? You look at the world, it's pretty bad, pretty upside down. He gets blamed for everything. So we get blamed for that. Yeah. Senseless murder. Yeah, people gunned down. People, whatever. Terrible things going on. See, if I was Zoroastrian, very easy. Good God, bad God. Blame everything on the bad God. Okay. If I'm a Christian, blame everything on Satan. Okay. That's very easy. But if we believe God is all good, you see all this, you're going to say, wow, like what's going on? But that's the problem a person's going to have with higher power. Why does this person just get hit by a bus? Why just come down with MS? Why is their kid mentally challenged? Why, fill in the blank? There are a million things you could ask on that. Right? But again, do people really believe that? Or they just want that they're using that as an excuse. They say, well, if God did this and God does that, why should I believe in him? Good. And but you have plenty of things to be thankful for, but you're not thankful that he gave it to you. Human body, you're not thankful the plumbing works, digestion works. You can go like this and it doesn't hurt, even if it hurts a little bit. You're relatively healthy. You have a roof over your head, even if it doesn't belong to you. You're not thankful for that. Where did that come from? Or say, I worked hard, this and that. Right. So the bad, you want to say, oh, look what God did over here. So therefore, I'm not going to believe in him. What about the good? The good outweighs the bad. I don't think there's any question. So many things to be thankful for. A million things to be thankful for. Right? People just don't look at it that way. Someone here says, fish can cause leprosy. Okay. I don't know about leprosy. But even so, I'll take a look at that. But even so, even so, the Gemara doesn't give a reason. The Gemara just says it's a danger. That's all the Gemara says. It's a danger. What's the danger? What exactly is the danger? We don't know. Never been proven in science either. Right? Not that we use science as a criteria, but you ask any Orthodox Jew today, they're not going to give you an answer. We'll say we don't do it because danger is worse than something forbidden. Right? Something that's danger, in this case, eating milk and meat together. Meat and fish together is worse than eating pig. More dangerous than eating pig. Or more dangerous even than eating fly or creepy crawly thing, which it could be 5 or 6 prohibitions in one shot. Eating pig is only one. But people make the mistake saying pig is worse. Why is pig worse? Pig's only one transgression. Yeah, but even without going into all that, we're much more stringent by danger than anything else. Much more stringent. Yeah, something to keep in mind. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to stop here. I do this every Sunday, 9 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, feel free. You can find me on Facebook at Chaim Koppin, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, Beyond Orthodox Conversion to Judaism. On YouTube, there I got videos on Torah portion of the week or Q&As, ethics for our fathers, etc. You want to send me an email, rabbichaimkoppin@gmail.com, RBBICHIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com. Wish everyone a good beginning of the day, end of the day.